Right now, about 80% of business leaders out there think they are delivering this just incredible customer experience.
Yeah, that's what they think.
Right. But if you actually ask their customers, only 8% agree.
Wow.
Yeah, 8%. It is a massive, like multi-million-dollar delusion
Yeah.
that's just living inside modern businesses today. Because you imagine, that charismatic account manager shaking hands, signing the deal, and boom, the customer's won forever.
Right, the classic sales victory.
Exactly. But we're looking at a landscape today where the real trust isn't actually built in the boardroom anymore. It's built in the mud, you know, in the scheduling software,
Oh.
in the service trucks.
It really is the ultimate operational reality check. When you look at the research, specifically, well, today we're doing a deep dive into an analysis by Dusk FSM.
Right. The field service management platform.
Exactly. And their white paper brings up this core realization that customer experience is no longer a department. It is an interconnected system.
A system, yeah. Not just a support desk.
Precisely. The entire traditional method of managing customer relationships is quite literally breaking down as businesses try to scale.
Yeah.
And today we're unpacking why connecting the intent of a sale to the gritty real-world execution is just the new operational baseline.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we dive into how things are breaking, we really have to look at what changed. Why isn't a good sales pitch and a friendly support team enough to keep you, the customer, happy anymore?
Well, for a long time, the model was pretty simple. Sales won the relationship, right? They made the promises, they set the expectation.
Sign the contract.
Yep. And if something went wrong, the support team stepped in to apologize, maybe hand out a discount, and fix the complaints. Delivery was just this back-end function.
But that's not how it works now.
Not at all. That historical model is completely dead. Today, customer experience is execution-driven.
Execution-driven.
Right. Because if you are a customer, you do not remember the smooth onboarding process. You don't remember the slick PDF proposal they sent you.
Oh, for sure.
You remember if the technician actually arrived on time. And crucially, whether they had the right context to fix your problem without asking you 50 redundant questions. The promise and the delivery have completely drifted apart in the corporate world.
It's kind of like going to a high-end restaurant.
Right.
Like the waiter is incredibly charming, they know your name, the menu looks amazing, the lighting is perfect. The sales part of the experience is a 10 out of 10.
The intent is there.
Exactly.
Yep.
But if the kitchen boons your steak or loses the ticket and it takes 2 whole hours to bring out your meal,
Yeah.
you are never going back.
Never.
The execution completely ruined the experience. And I mean, no amount of free dessert from that charming waiter is going to fix the underlying systemic failure in the kitchen.
That restaurant analogy perfectly illustrates the disconnect. And, in the business-to-business world, the stakes are exponentially higher than a burnt steak.
Oh, yeah. Like millions of dollars higher.
Right. Imagine you are the operations manager at a medical facility. Your $500,000 MRI machine goes down.
Nightmare scenario.
Total nightmare. You call the service provider, you get a lovely agent on the phone who promises, oh, a tech will be out there immediately.
Okay, great. Sales and support did their job.
Right. But then, 4 hours later, the technician walks into your facility, looks at the machine, and asks, so, what seems to be the problem today?
Oh, man. My blood pressure just spiked hearing that.
Exactly. Your trust in that company drops to absolute zero instantly. The execution completely failed at the information layer.
That visceral frustration is just so real. The customer shouldn't have to manage the company's internal communication.
Wow.
If the sales phone call isn't the touch point that matters, then what is? Like, how do we actually measure execution?
Well, it happens across a continuum of touch points that, frankly, most companies treat as complete afterthoughts.
Like what?
It starts the second the customer tries to book the service.
Yeah.
This isn't just about throwing a date on a calendar. It's about providing a reliable timeline the customer can actually plan their life or their business operations around.
Right. Predictable scheduling.
Exactly. Then it's about the context we just discussed, arriving informed. But the ultimate trust driver, the big one, is the first-time fix.
First-time fix.
Yeah.
Getting it right on visit number 1.
Getting it right without needing to, order a part and come back a week later. And finally, giving the customer clear, timely confirmation that the job is closed and the billing is handled, without them having to chase down an invoice.
Which brings up a really huge question for me. If execution is so obviously important, I mean, showing up on time and fixing the thing is basically business 101, right?
You'd think so.
Why are so many companies failing at it? Like nobody wakes up and decides to run a disorganized business.
No, they don't.
It seems like the gap creeps in gradually, right? As the sheer volume and complexity of the jobs begin to just outpace what humans can coordinate manually.
That phenomenon is exactly what the Dusk FSM research identifies as the operational strain model.
The operational strain model. Okay,
Right.
explain that.
So, when you are a scrappy 5-person operation, you can muscle through. But as you grow, the math starts to work against you. The first major breaking point is coordination overload.
Coordination overload, so just too many moving parts.
Right. In the early days, you can run a field service team with simple phone calls, maybe a whiteboard, a shared Google Calendar. Everyone generally knows where the trucks are.
Sure, Bob's on the east side, Sarah's on the west.
Exactly. But when you scale from 5 trucks to 50, scheduling is no longer just about who has an open slot on Tuesday.
Right.
You are juggling geographic locations, very specific technical skill sets, dynamic traffic conditions, required inventory. It stops being a calendar and starts being a massive mathematical puzzle.
Okay, I am going to push back on that a little bit.
Go for it.
I don't fully buy that scaling automatically breaks the system.
Right.
Like if I'm running a 50-person field team, why can't I just hire a really ruthless, highly paid dispatcher? Give them a massive whiteboard, a dedicated Slack channel, maybe 3 monitors, and just enforce better internal communication.
It sounds logical, right?
Yeah. Why jump to saying human coordination is impossible?
What's fascinating here is that human brains physically cannot calculate combinatorial explosion.
Combinatorial explosion. That sounds like a sci-fi term.
It does. But let's look at the actual mechanism of dynamic scheduling. If you have just 10 trucks and 10 stops, the number of possible routing combinations is literally in the millions.
Wait, really? With just 10 trucks?
Just 10. Now, let's say it's 2 p.m. Truck 3 gets a flat tire on the highway. Job 4 runs 2 hours long because they discovered a secondary leak.
Okay, so chaos ensues.
Total chaos.
Okay.
Suddenly, your ruthless dispatcher has to recalculate the distance between 49 other trucks, cross-reference the inventory sitting in each of those vans, verify the certifications of the drivers to ensure they can legally handle the next job, and balance the priority levels of 200 pending service tickets in real time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You can hire the best communicator on the planet, but they cannot do that math in their head.
Okay, yeah, when you put it like that, the whiteboard doesn't stand a chance. The math just swallows you whole.
Exactly.
So when the dispatcher inevitably fails to calculate 3 million variables in 30 seconds, what happens next?
The immediate fallout is a massive visibility gap. Because the human can't compute the whole picture, the information just fragments.
Like silos start forming.
Exactly. Dispatch is looking at their routing software, trying to put out fires. The technicians out in the field are scribbling notes on paper clipboards or typing into some isolated mobile app.
Which dispatch you probably can't even see.
Right. And the finance team. They're waiting on a completely different billing system to send the invoice. And the sales team is flying completely blind, just assuming the customer is thrilled.
So the company might actually have plenty of data, but they completely lack shared visibility.
Precisely.
And I imagine the knee-jerk reaction for most executives at this point is to just throw software at the problem. Like you buy a dispatching tool, you buy a new billing platform, you set up a customized messaging app for the field.
Which creates the ultimate trap system fragmentation.
System fragmentation.
Yes. You stack all these tools, but each system is a walled garden. Data has to be manually exported from one tool and re-entered into the next.
Oh, the dreaded double data entry.
Exactly. At a certain point, your highly paid staff is no longer managing the operations of the business. They are entirely consumed with managing the gaps between your different pieces of software.
Wow. We've clearly established that scaling breaks manual, human-driven processes, so businesses turn to heavy-duty software. But looking at how Dusk analyzes this in the white paper, there's a critical, almost philosophical flaw in how most companies approach their technology.
Right, the core misunderstanding.
Yeah, they fundamentally confuse intent with execution. And I find this distinction fascinating. Let's look at a CRM, something ubiquitous like HubSpot or Salesforce.
Sure.
A CRM is brilliant at managing intent. It knows exactly who the customer is, what product or service was sold to them, the agreed-upon price, the entire communication history. That is the intent. We intend to provide this service to this person for this amount.
Yes, exactly.
But the CRM does not manage the physical world.
Right, execution is a completely different operational layer. A CRM cannot tell you if the technician actually has the right replacement valve in their truck.
Nope.
Execution has to answer the hard, real-world constraints. Who exactly is doing this work at 2 p.m. today? Do they have the necessary safety clearance? Have they finished the previous job yet?
It's the gritty details.
Exactly. And when the intent layer and the execution layer are not natively connected, humans have to step in and manually fill the void.
Which means more text messages, more phone calls.
They send follow-up texts, they enter data twice, they call the tech just to see if they're done. And human manual intervention at scale always leads to delayed information and dropped balls.
It makes me think of, well, here's where it gets really interesting. Think of the difference between an architect and a builder.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. The CRM is the architect's blueprint. It's pristine. It shows the beautiful design, the exact dimensions of what the customer bought. But the FSM, the field service management layer, that is the builder on the ground. The builder is out there actually dealing with the reality of weather delays, unexpected supply shortages, and, pouring the wet concrete. You can have the most beautiful blueprint in the world, but a blueprint cannot pour concrete.
Let's stretch that analogy even further because it perfectly illustrates the fragmentation problem.
All right, let's do it.
What happens when the customer calls the sales rep and wants to add a new air conditioning unit to the order? The architect just changed the blueprint.
Right, they updated the CRM.
But if the intent layer and the execution layer aren't dynamically linked, the builder on the site is completely unaware. They're still pouring the concrete for the old blueprint.
Oh, man. Yeah. The tech shows up with the wrong parts, the customer gets frustrated, and the company just wastes hours of labor.
Exactly.
And the customer, frankly, doesn't care how nice the blueprint is. They care if the house is built right. Which brings us to the evolution of the market. Now that we see this massive gap between the blueprint and the builder, what happens when a business actually manages to bridge it?
Well, the prize here isn't just saving the dispatcher a headache. It is a completely new way to compete in the market.
Right.
Historically, companies competed on two things: closing the deal quickly and showing up fast. Speed was everything.
Got to be first.
But speed is just table stakes now. If you don't have speed, you aren't even in the game. The new competitive differentiator, the ultimate weapon, is consistency.
Consistency over speed.
Exactly. Customers no longer judge you on one heroic effort where a technician drove through a snowstorm to fix a problem. They judge you on absolute predictability. Does this company do exactly what they said they would do every single time without me having to chase them down?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Overall, customer satisfaction is far more heavily influenced by the end-to-end consistency of the journey than by any single amazing touch point.
I want to hone in on a concept here from the source material that should really keep every business owner awake at night. Silent churn.
Oh yes, silent churn.
In field services, and really in any operational business, we have this illusion that if a customer is unhappy, they will call and yell at us.
Right, the squeaky wheel.
Exactly. But they rarely call you up to complain about inconsistency. They don't want the friction of an argument. They just quietly endure this slightly annoying, unpredictable service, and the very next time they need something, they go to a competitor who promises a more predictable outcome.
You lose the revenue and you never even find out why.
It's chilling. You just bleed customers.
That silent churn is devastating. And it's completely invisible to a company that only measures intent in their CRM.
Right, because the CRM says the account is active.
Exactly. To combat this, you have to build an environment of continuous consistency.
Which means what in practice?
It means predictable scheduling, where jobs are assigned based on actual availability and constraints, not just guesses. It means complete job context, where techs arrive fully informed about the client's history.
So no more asking, what's the problem today?
Exactly. It requires coordinated execution, where updates flow instantly across all internal teams. And it demands reliable communication, where the customer receives automated, timely updates without ever having to call and ask, where is the guy?
Right. But the catch is, maintaining all of that manually is impossible at scale, as we established with our dispatcher trying to do combinatorial math on a whiteboard.
It's literally impossible.
So we know what the goal is, system-driven consistency. So what does this all mean for the tools we actually use? How exactly does a business build this execution layer? How do you create an operating model that actually connects these disconnected islands?
It comes down to fundamentally shifting your architecture. The system has to actually reflect how your specific work is delivered.
Real steps.
Right, the real steps, the real approvals. If a software system is rigid and forces your team to work in a way that doesn't match reality, they will just invent workarounds outside of it.
Oh, the classic, I'll just take some, it's faster problem.
Exactly. And the second you have people working outside the system, your data is instantly useless. You also need real-time visibility. Everyone, from dispatch to the field to management, has to be looking at the exact same current operational reality.
This goes back to the scheduling intelligence, right?
Yeah.
The system itself needs to factor in the skills, the location, and the workload simultaneously to assign jobs, utilizing those algorithms that humans just can't process.
Exactly. Furthermore, it requires adaptability. A business isn't static. The system has to be able to handle new services, new geographical regions, or new teams as you grow without needing to be completely torn down and rebuilt from scratch.
So I hear all this, and part of me just thinks, great, the solution is to rip out all our existing software, fire the CRM, and buy some massive multi-million-dollar enterprise system.
No, no, no.
How is a business supposed to implement this connected model without just adding another incredibly heavy, annoying piece of software to the pile?
Well, that is where the specific architecture of a platform like Dusk FSM comes into play. Dusk is built specifically for this execution layer. Crucially, it does not replace your CRM.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, it doesn't replace HubSpot or Salesforce. It actively extends them.
Ah, okay. Wait, so it respects the architect's blueprint, but it manages the pouring of the concrete.
Precisely. Let's walk through the actual data flow because it's pretty elegant.
Okay, let's hear it.
When a deal is closed in HubSpot, that is your intent, Dusk FSM automatically ingests that data through native integrations and translates it into a structured field job.
Automatically. No manual data entry.
Zero. Its scheduling engine then allocates that job based on all those complex real-world constraints we talked about. Who is physically closest in traffic right now? Who has the specific certifications required? Who has the parts in their van?
The combinatorial math.
Exactly. It does the math for you. It then pushes that assigned job, complete with the entire customer history from the CRM, directly to the technician via a mobile app.
Wow. So the technician isn't flying blind. They know exactly what was promised during the sales process. They walk in looking like an absolute expert, not a confused contractor.
And as they do the work, real-time updates flow back from the mobile app to dispatch. When the job is done, the technician hits complete.
And then what?
That status instantly triggers the billing process in the finance software and simultaneously updates the CRM so the sales team knows the job was successfully executed.
That is true connected execution.
It is. Independent advisory firms like ISG are actively evaluating platforms based on this exact capability. They recognize that bridging this gap without human manual intervention is what actually enables an execution-led customer experience.
You know, the brilliance of this approach is that the goal isn't to somehow magically simplify the actual work.
Right, the work is still hard.
The real world is always going to be complex. Traffic happens, parts break, technicians get sick. The goal is to make that complexity manageable. It's about building a central nervous system for the business so it can grow exponentially without losing its soul.
That's a great way to put it.
It preserves that baseline reliability that won the customers in the first place, even when you scale from 5 trucks to 500.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the leaders in any operational field over the next decade are not going to be the ones with the flashiest marketing campaigns or the slickest sales decks.
Nope.
They will be the ones who design operating systems capable of repeatable perfection. Relying on occasional heroism from an overworked technician who pulls a 14-hour shift just to save a client, that is not a sustainable business model.
It's really not. Burnout city.
Exactly. Consistent, invisible, boring reliability is the new gold standard. Intent is vital, but without an execution layer to actually carry it out, intent is just an empty promise. Bridging that gap is the definitive operational challenge of scaling a service business today.
To wrap this all up, the core lesson here for you, the listener, is a massive paradigm shift. You are no longer competing on your promises, you are entirely competing on your delivery.
100%.
Customer experience cannot be this fluffy concept left at the edges of your business for the sales and support teams to handle with apologies and gift cards.
Yeah.
It must be hard-coded into the very operational workflows of your business. If your systems aren't talking to each other, your execution will fail, and your customers will silently walk away.
Exactly.
Which leaves me with a final, slightly provocative thought for you to mull over as we close out this deep dive. We've talked extensively about how execution consistency is the new battleground. But let's look 10 years down the road.
Okay.
If operational consistency and execution eventually become fully automated, seamlessly integrated, and entirely predictable across an entire industry where everyone has perfect blueprints and perfect builders, what becomes the next frontier of human-to-human trust?
Oh, that's a good question.
Right. Once everyone is perfectly reliable, perfectly on time, and perfectly informed, How will your business stand out then? Do we loop all the way back to the charming waiter, or is there something else entirely? Think about your own broken operations, those frustrating moments when a service provider left you in the dark, and ask yourself, what is the hidden execution gap in your own world right now?